Hi everyone, my name is Monica McEwen. I'm a managing director in Deloitte's Analytics and Cognitive Practice with our public sector. So I'd like to introduce you to CortexAI for Government, or as we call it, CFG, and how it's really helping to drive mission impact with the agencies that we work with. Like you, every agency that we're working with today is grappling with the challenges that are presented by the increasing velocity and volume of data. And every government agency we're talking to is trying to modernize our existing processes and break down the data silos. But developing and deploying AI presents a lot of considerations, and every agency will require a tailored solution which really takes into consideration their individual needs. So for the next couple of minutes, we're going to explore how Deloitte's really helping agencies and higher education drive new capabilities quickly and at scale. The CFG, or Cortex for Government, is a modular AI and ML blueprint and solution source, which really connects AI and ML to enable real-world and real-time decision-making. In today's world, we know that AI is a lot more than just technology, and at Deloitte, we combine our deep understanding of the government's mission, robust foundation of data, best-of-breed technology, and AI and ML algorithms to really help drive client decisions and drive agency missions forward. But most importantly, we really meet agencies where they are on their AI journey, recognizing that some organizations have really moved forward with AI and might only need a tailored niche solution, while others might need a full end-to-end solution and fully integrated to meet your mission needs. So CFG components can be applied to any mission across government, whether it be regulatory intelligence, threats and securities, or health and equity. To bring to life really how we're leveraging CFG, I'm joined by Peter and Sean, who will share practical examples of how the components that we've taken out to our clients and higher education institutions are reducing the time it takes to make decisions and also helping with the scarcity of resources that we know every organization is grappling with today. So before we dive in, I'd love to just do some quick introduction. Sean, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Thanks, Monica. Real briefly, pleasure to be with everyone today. Sean Conlon, I'm a principal within Deloitte Consulting. I'm one of the leaders in our cognitive and analytics area where we do most of our AI work. I've been building predictive modeling systems for about 3 decades across all parts of the government, federal, state, local, as well as a number of commercial industries. I am the principal champion for and owner of the HealthPrism product, which we'll be highlighting today. Thanks. Pete, over to you.
I'm Deloitte's national leader of higher education analytics. So I spend a big chunk of my time focused on supporting colleges and universities structure and implement what we'd refer to as mission-based analytics. So this includes really thinking about the enrollment life cycle end-to-end, thinking about the student experience, student success, and around diversity, equity, and inclusion goals that institutions might have. I'm also the product owner of Candidate360, which is Deloitte's AI-driven predictive analytics solution that really focuses on that enrollment life cycle. Over the last 12 years, I've worked with close to 100 different universities and colleges, and I think the 2 questions I most commonly hear are, how do I do more with less? And when I do choose to do something, how do I know that's the thing that's going to work best and have the greatest impact? And answering those kinds of questions is really what focuses and drives my passion around higher education and in the analytics space. Back to you, Monica.
Thanks, Sean and Pete, for being with us today. And Pete, to your point of wanting to do more with less, I think we hear that from everybody we talk to, right? Especially today. And so I'd love to just dive into both the health and equity solution as well as Candidate360. Maybe you can share with the audience the kind of real world applicability and the problems that we're solving with each of those assets within our Cortex for Government platform. So Sean, maybe you could start and just share a bit about the health and equity solution and how we're applying that to the agency's needs.
Within the health and equity space, using both CFG and the full power of Google Cloud platform, we have the HealthPrism product, which is really being applied extensively in the health space and in the equity space. Within HealthPrism, the underlying data and predictive AI models are pretty impressive. We have information on over 240 million individuals across the United States. It's updated about every 30 to 60 days, and we actually up to 8 years of history of data there that, but for the cloud platform, we would not be able to fully harness. And what we're able to do with this is apply it in a wide range of applications. Within the health space, it has been extremely valuable for government leaders as they are charting the response doing resource allocations. So every phase of the COVID response, everything from testing through vaccine allocations, the data has not only raw data that we procure from hundreds of data sources, but we've built more than 165 predictive AI models. It is the largest social determinants of health data set, and that allows us to be able to understand the needs of citizens, where are citizens falling through the cracks and are vulnerable, and allows government leaders to identify those problems and quickly respond to that with actionable intel. Also in the human services area, we've been able to help address equity issues in both the food area, housing and security, and in broadband access. Many federal dollars are coming down to the states in each of those areas. And they're using this predictive AI modeling platform and solution to better allocate resources to help our most vulnerable citizens. Pete, over to you.
Thanks, Sean. And I think just like health, just like human services, higher education is one of those sectors we've seen experiencing massive disruption. There was a lot of long-term stressors prior to the pandemic, and COVID came along and basically exacerbated every single one. We see individual students and prospects understanding they have more educational options, and they really have that desire to have a more personalized digital experience that they're used to in other parts of their life. Candidate360 leverages that data set of 240 million individuals and households across the US and uses that to provide more comprehensive, more personalized, and faster insights to our higher ed clients. That enables them to pursue enrollment priorities and utilize all of their recruiting, marketing, financial aid resources to their maximum potential. C360 provides really end-to-end insights throughout the enrollment and admissions lifecycle, finding new high-fit prospects to add to your pipeline, predicting yield for the students that have applied or that are in your pipeline, so you can understand where you should focus your time and energy and resources. Optimizing financial aid, not just to attract students and get them in the door day one, but to make sure that their financial aid package is going to allow them to afford the entirety of their education. And then finally, identifying optimal outreach channels and messaging, understanding what each individual prospect is going to be persuaded by and how they want to receive that messaging so that you can get better outcomes from your market. C360 is really uniquely designed to address those challenges for a few reasons. One is the proprietary data. Two is the fact that we train each one of the analytical models on the data of our client institution. And then finally, like a plague, we avoid sort of the black box, the mystery analytic. And that approach lets our clients understand the analytics much more and therefore trust and make decisions on the analytics much more than they would otherwise. We recently worked with a large land grant institution to accelerate their efforts around student diversity. We helped them identify new high-fit prospects that really not just checked the diversity categories they were looking for, but also matched profiles of individuals who would thrive and succeed at their university, and then help them engage those students and get the right messaging to those students to really fully fold them into their enrollment pipeline. Monica, I'll turn it back to you.
Great example of talking about how the CortexAI for Government platform takes a combination of the data sets that we've curated, combines that with the authoritative data sources that you may have and may want to bring to the platform as well, combining that with the algorithms and the models that, as Pete said, are trained uniquely for a specific use case or a specific organization. And the trustworthy piece is so important there, right? Ensuring that the data that we're training is removed of biases, ensuring that we're applying our ethical models and ethical principles to the AI, something that we take very seriously at Deloitte. And then combining that with the analytics to drive that actionable insight. That's a really key point, right? Is how do you get to action? And we all know that the world has changed significantly across all industries. And I'd just be curious if you could each share a perspective as to how we were able to take the CFG solution and apply it to the changing needs that we saw both within higher ed as well as within state and federal health.
It's a great question. It's one we get a lot. How do predictive analytics work in what is a historically unpredictable environment that we're all living in? In Candidate360's case, they work really well. And I think it's that bringing the external data has really been critical to that success of either maintaining or enhancing the accuracy and the precision and the timeliness of our models. So when you really think about some of the basic indicators universities typically use to understand their enrollment pipeline and how they've been affected by COVID, right? High school GPAs compromised because so many schools went to pass-fail for so long. SAT and ACT scores, it's tough to have those when you're not able to take those tests. Family finances were really disrupted in a lot of cases by the crisis. Campus visits are traditionally something that's a great indicator of student interest. It didn't exist last year, and they're just making their way back this year. So we were able to use all that external data that we brought to the table to fill in a lot of the gaps that institutions otherwise would have. When we're thinking about the AI, when we're thinking about the machine learning, it really helped the models adapt to the changing times really quickly. If we think about sort of the static, classic predictive models, they're built on years of history. They only really work when the world is more or less static, the same as it was in the last few years, and that certainly hasn't been the case. So the machine learning aspects of the analytics really help the models evolve and adapt in a way that was current to our current pandemic circumstance. We've really seen Candidate360 come into play in two other ways throughout the pandemic. The first is that you've got more institutions that are diversifying into online and hybrid programs, and Candidate360 has really helped them cultivate strong pipelines of those hard to reach adult and non-traditional learner population. And then second, I've seen a lot of clients emphasizing their commitment to prospects and students who have really been hit hard by that pandemic. And we've helped really point the analytics in Candidate360 in ways to make sure that institutions understand how they need to support those students and prospects better and get the resources and the support they need to those who need it the most. So that's what we've done in higher ed. Sean, I'd love to hear on the health side how things have been going.
Over the past year, the HealthPrism data set and the predictive AI models have been used to inform north of 1,000 resource allocation decisions. If you think about what we're asking our government leaders to do, especially throughout this pandemic, it's pretty daunting. If you look at the challenge they're facing, they are surrounded by data, but the ability to harness what's in that data to make informed decisions has really been challenged and have been exposed, quite frankly, through the pandemic. What the AI models and the HealthPrism solution with CFG and Google Cloud behind it, we've actually been able to bridge that gap between the data and what's needed to make decisions. So in the health space, an example would be, how do we get vaccines for COVID to those citizens who want the vaccine but can't get to it? And the government leaders are challenged to understand who are those citizens who want that help and what is their barrier to get to it. With the AI models that we're able to deploy, we give them visibility into who are those vulnerable people. And once they understand the barrier, they can, for many, it's access is still a problem. How do you do that in a culturally sensitive way? We are able to expose that with the data that we're able to bring to the table. Government leaders are able to use that to deploy teams to those neighborhoods, set up transportation options, vaccine mobile sites, and we've been able to help a material number of citizens get the vaccine that they otherwise would not have to help our most vulnerable. Another example in the equity space, if you look at food insecurity, by being able to use at-scale data, we're able to give leaders visibility into where are their vulnerable populations who are likely eligible for SNAP benefits but are not receiving them, and what are the barriers preventing them from getting those benefits. That's actionable insights, actionable information that is an example of connecting government leaders to the data that's surrounding them in a way that they can actually help citizens' lives. The one benefit through this tragedy we're living through in this pandemic is we are harnessing this data, giving government leaders analytic tools that allow them to take actions that help our most vulnerable citizens. And with that, Monica, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, Sean, I couldn't agree more. This pandemic has taught government entities and other organizations that data is really the lifeline of how to respond and how to drive mission impact, not only within the agency, but also across the citizens. So thanks for sharing those two incredible examples today. Would love to chat with anybody more about Cortex for Government and how we're supporting the various agencies that we work with, as well as higher education institutions. I'd love to talk to you more and visit our website as well to learn more information and to see a live demonstration of the CortexAI for Government solution. Thank you.